Random House Audio presents My Turn at the Bully Pulpit. Straight talk about things that drive me nuts by Greta Van Susteren and Elaine Lafferty. This is Greta Van Susteren. Forward and forewarned. Let me tell you what this audiobook is and what it is not. This audio represents my take on issues, large and small, what I think about, and how I came to think it. This is not a scholarly text aimed at analyzing and deconstructing the issues facing America today. It's not an academic treatise. You are simply going to find out what I think at this moment and why I think it, based on how I have lived my life both personally and professionally. My view of the world and of the critical issues facing us is based on what I have seen and what I've learned in my law practice, through my life experiences, and in my career as a legal and news analyst on television. I grew up in the Midwest, and I fundamentally remain a Midwesterner at heart, even though I have lived in Washington, D.C. for most of my adult life. I was born in 1954, meaning that my formative years were in the 1960s and 1970s, a tumultuous time in America. While I am of the generation that was considered part of the backbone of 1960s radicalism and liberalism, the fact is that my essential political views and moral values were formed much more by Midwestern Catholic middle-class sensibilities than those of someone who grew up on the East or West Coast and went to elite schools. I attended neither Harvard nor Berkeley, but the good old University of Wisconsin at Madison. I recently had lunch with Henry Kissinger, who is a frequent guest on my show. I sat there thinking how unimaginable it would have been for most of my life that I'd be sharing a meal with someone who is inarguably, no matter how you feel about him, one of the most important figures in modern American history. We began discussing war, and the conversation turned to the anti-Vietnam War demonstrations that shook this country during the time Kissinger served in the Nixon White House. I told Kissinger that indeed I had attended some of those demonstrations as a teenager. He became silent. The Vietnam War demonstrations were some of the most emotional and divisive moments in American history. It was apparent that Dr. Kissinger remembered them clearly. Well, beyond everything else, they were the best parties in town, I said. I don't think some of us in our early teens knew where Vietnam was, and I didn't even know whose side the Viet Cong were on. We laughed. My point was not to defend or explain my position on the Vietnam War, nor to re-argue the matter or reopen anyone's old wounds, including his. The point was simply this. Vietnam was a long time ago, and, as with so many other controversial and painful aspects of American history, we must live in the present and move on from old hurts. I also do not intend to demean or represent the millions of Americans who did demonstrate against the war and were seriously and deeply informed. My then attitude toward Vietnam and demonstrations was the utter naivete of youth. I was a teenager at the time. I was still in high school. What I do mean to say is that history is sometimes not all it seems, and time brings perspective. Some of us, and I include myself, had no idea what we were actually protesting. In truth, I've become a little bit more informed since then and picked up more than my share of degrees and academic credentials. Yet still, what I truly know and believe was formed at home and in the trenches of life. Frankly, I find books that are no more than someone's rabid opinions larded with 67 pages of footnotes that refer to clips pulled from the New York Times and the wire services completely bogus. The footnotes are meant to make the work look scholarly, but when you scrape the surface, all you're getting is one person's view, maybe an educated and informed one, but still a single opinion. Our country is at a critical juncture. I believe that too many of us are caught up in old definitions of left and right that no longer apply. If I favor the death penalty in some cases, does that make me right-wing? If I think hate crimes legislation is unnecessary because of existing laws, does that make me a conservative? If I happen to like and enjoy Ozzy Osbourne and have him on my show, does that make me a liberal? And if I believe that corporations should be held accountable and subject to the rulings of a jury if their products harm citizens, ditto for doctors who commit medical malpractice, does that make me a lefty trial lawyer? You see, I believe these definitions may have been valid at one time, but they rarely apply anymore except for the most extreme elements of our society. Fundamentally, I believe we all want the same things: freedom, liberty, equal opportunity for all based on merit and hard work. I believe most of us oppose discrimination. We are more than willing to pay taxes provided the government fulfills its end of the contract. We want clean streets, safe schools, a decent and fair health care system. So what do we fight about? Well, I guess many of us have different ideas about strategy, about how to accomplish our common goals. But the fact that we do have common goals is an extraordinary thing when you stop to think about it. Having such shared goals distinguishes us from so many countries in the world. We differ on strategies to achieve them, that's all. Do you realize how amazing and unique that makes us? I may favor the right of a woman to choose to have an abortion in consultation with her doctor, but I also recognize the legitimacy of a different point of view. But don't we both agree that children should be entitled to safety, security, and a decent education? So go ahead and listen to this audiobook. The views are all mine. The mistakes and wrong-headed illogic are all my co-authors. Just kidding. But that leads me to another theme you'll find peppered throughout this audio: having fun. Something I try to do as often as possible, both at work and at home. Because the truth is that we all need to lighten up a bit, at least from time to time. So in this audio, you'll find the serious issues, but also some not-so-serious ones. I do hope you have some fun listening. Anatomy of a Cable News Show. Getting ratings and getting the get. Television news shouldn't be boring and doesn't need to be. Engaging the viewer is not dumbing down. Competition is a good thing. Winning the ratings war. Every afternoon I do something that most people in television news say they don't do. I look at the ratings from the night before. I sit at my desk with these Excel spreadsheets laid out before me, and I immerse myself in the business of television ratings, studying who watches, when, why, and how. Why do some people in TV deny they do this? Even stranger, maybe these people are not fudging. Maybe they're telling the truth and they actually never do sneak a peek. To listen to them, you'd think that monitoring ratings is somehow degrading, that it sullies their hands to actually care whether viewers are tuned in. Not me. I'm competitive. I need and like to have a method of keeping score. I want to win my time slot, to beat out the competition, and I also care about my viewers and don't want to put them to sleep. What's wrong with that? It's no compromise of integrity, journalistic or otherwise, to keep my audience engaged. There's nothing wrong with wanting people to watch your show if you're on television. It's my duty and also my privilege. How do I know if I'm doing a good job or not unless I have some score to examine? I use my ratings to figure out what it is the viewers want and respond to. Believe me, it doesn't feel good when the ratings go down, but it does give me the opportunity to evaluate. What didn't work? What could I have done differently? How can I improve? The law is a service industry, and so is television, or at least it should be. Ratings are upped when viewers tune in and stay tuned in, and it feels like a stamp of approval. Getting great ratings is fun, like winning a race, but it's also rewarding. It means that the product I worked hard on all day long was a good one. Viewers voted. It's a big fat lie when people in the news business claim, "I don't care about ratings." When someone declares himself indifferent to ratings, it's a good indication he's just lost the ratings war. It's as transparent as a kid who can't dribble a basketball and pouts, "Basketball is dumb." The folks at CNN may deny they're concerned about ratings, that they're above competition and focus solely on great journalism, but that's hard to believe when they spent $15 million to build Paul Azan a new set. I think their sudden change of heart about ratings began in 2002, when Fox became the #1 cable news network. Ignoring ratings may also suggest extreme arrogance. People in television should care whether the viewers are pleased with the presentation. To ignore ratings and to simply program a show with what the anchor wants means the anchor has decided what the viewer should watch. This isn't to suggest that people in the news business should be so spellbound by ratings as to lose all good judgment and moral commitment. But how we package the news is important, and it doesn't require us to compromise integrity.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?